Okay, we're very privileged this morning to welcome in the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue. Good morning.
Good morning, Emily. Glad to be here in Utah.
Thank you so much. Well, we're very glad to have you here in Utah, your 50th state as Secretary, which we'll get to in a moment. But let's talk about why you are here. You've got quite the day planned with our governor, Gary Herbert. So talk to us about what you two will be talking about and some good news for the state.
Well, you know, when you're a state like Utah with 2/3 of your land under federal control, the relationship between the state and the federal government is very important. I served with Governor Herbert. Our terms overlap to some degree as governors. I admire him, and we're here to determine how we can work together in a shared stewardship arrangement that we'll sign today between how Utah manages its land and how the U.S. Forest Service manages it. Because fire and those kind of things know no borders, and it's in our best interest to work together.
Let's talk about that roadless rule, because last year our state saw so many fires, and it would have been helpful if we had a little better access to fight those fires.
Well, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the things that's an advantage, obviously. People who love the wildlife love the wild, and we want to make sure we preserve that. But you got to have certain things with access where people can get to do things in certainly an emergency position, and we're going to talk about that. I think there are ways we can work together in a shared stewardship. We've had a good neighbor authority with Utah for a number of years as well, and that means that, again, we want to act like good neighbors, and that means working together and looking after one another.
And this is something we've been working on, our state and your office, for quite some time. So this is kind of a culmination or a continuation of an effort that's been going on for quite a while.
Culmination would be a great point. The shared stewardship is something we put a lot of emphasis on. It really outlines the responsibilities that we want to do and the responsibilities that you have, and just like good neighbors and taking care of the fence line in that way. So it'll be an agreement that I think works well and shows a relationship that's healthy between the state and the federal government.
And the governor's going to show off a few of our pride and joy here in Salt Lake City.
No doubt about it.
So you've got a good day ahead of you. Let's talk about China trade, because as the Secretary of Agriculture, farmers and farming is a very big priority to you. You have been a farmer yourself there from Georgia. So when we look at the China trade talks, there's some concerns about our farmers here in America. So talk about that and how that ongoing situation may or may not be a good thing.
Emily, this isn't just crying wolf. There's legitimate concern out there. Farmers really are hurting. There's economic stress across the country, whether it's livestock or production or specialty crops. Their prices are low. They've been going down since about 2012 or 13. And they've reached levels where many people are not profitable, and that's very stressful when you have a big enterprise like farming with all the costs that go in. And then we were looking forward to renewing the trade relationship with China, and we were making great progress, and agriculture was going to be served very well until China started reneging and backtracking on some of their commitments. And President Trump just said that's the way they've done for a number of years, and we're not going to put up with it.
So what would you say to farmers? There's many here in our state of Utah who are concerned, and they're watching the talks going on in Washington. Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Well, again, continue to pray. Obviously, President Trump has again in 2019 initiated a market facilitation program where we'll be distributing $16 billion across the ag economy, both in livestock, row crops, and specialty crops in lieu of trade. Farmers would rather have trade than aid, but if they can't have trade, they need some aid, and that's what happened. President Trump is looking after them, and he's going to make their bottom lines hopefully turn black, not red.
Our farmers are so important to the success of our country. Okay, so 50th state. Let's end with that here before we say farewell. You spent a lot of time outside of Washington, even though you've moved to Washington, D.C.
That's right. My job is really in the United States agriculture, and most agriculture is outside of D.C., so it's one of my favorite parts of the job. North, south, east, or west, ag people are some of the best people in the world. They're just salt of the earth. And there's an interesting thing about President Trump. Being from New York City, he has a natural affinity and affection for the agriculturalists of America. He likes their values, their hard work ethic, and their risk-taking there. And he truly loves them.
Well, and you're one of them, so it's good that he's sending you out to go visit with them. Well, have such a lovely day today in Utah. We're happy to have you here to spend time with our governor, and you've got a couple of stops.
You're just as hospitable as I've heard. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to hear that. Okay, well, of course, our own Glenn Mills will be spending time with the Secretary today as well, so continuing coverage throughout the day right here on ABC4. Brian, back to you.